Hello guys, I hope you all are doing good. I am Vishali Kikan and we are discussing the VLSI technology. In that, today we are going to start a new topic, that is plasma. So even if you are not watching this playlist for the VLSI technology, this topic is very important and you will get to know the plasma and the various concepts associated with it. Okay, so we are going to discuss these things in a video lecture series of 3 to 4 videos, and I want you to stay tuned for all of the videos. I hope you will be staying with me till the end of this playlist, and after that you will be getting a lot of new information. Okay, so first of all, I want your utmost attention because this is the first video on the plasma, and if you understand this video well, then it would be really easy for you to understand the concepts related to the plasma in the upcoming videos. Okay, so first of all, I am going to discuss the various objectives that I am going to follow throughout this playlist. So first of all, we are going to list at least 3 IC processes which are using plasma. Okay, so what are IC processes? IC processes are the various processes which are used for the manufacturing of an IC. Okay, so if I want to manufacture an IC, there are various processes like photolithography, we have chemical vapor deposition, okay, then we have etching. So all of these are IC processing. We are going to list 3 processes which are using the plasma as an in-between material, okay, which is using the properties of the plasma. Plasma can be used as an advantage or as a limitation as well. So we are going to focus upon both of them, how the plasma is providing some advantages and how it acts like a limitation. Okay, so after that we are going to name 3 important collisions that are taking place in the plasma. Okay, so the plasma is composed of various charges which are having the random motion, and due to the random motion there are various collisions. We are going to discuss these collisions in detail. After that we are going to discuss about mean free path. What is mean free path and why we are studying it when we are studying the plasma, and what is its impact on the composition of the plasma. We are going to see that. After that we are going to explain how plasma enhance the etch rate, also how it is used in the CVD process. Then we are going to name the 2 high density plasma sources. Okay, so all of these things are initiating some curiosity in you, and we are going to talk about all of them in detail. Okay, so these are our topic of discussion. First of all, what is plasma, why we use plasma, then ion bombardment, the application of plasma process. All of them are very important topic. Okay, so first of all, starting with the applications of the plasma. I told you we are going to discuss at least 3 processes, and here you can see we have the CVD, the chemical vapor deposition, then we have the etching process, the physical vapor deposition, the ion implantation, the photoresist strip process, the process chamber dry cleaning. All of these processes, these are all IC processes, all of these processes require the plasma. Okay, so in the chemical vapor deposition and the physical vapor deposition, the plasma can be used as a material to deposit on the IC. In the etching, it can be used as an ion bombardment. It can cause the ion bombardment which hit on the surface of the IC, and when it hit on the surface it destroy the atomic bond, and when it destroys the atomic bond these atoms are removed away. Okay, so this is the etching process which is initiated using the plasma. Then we have the ion implantation. In the ion implantation also we require the high energy ions, or I can say ion bombardment we require, which we can generate using the plasma. Okay, so if we want to strip off the photoresist layer from the wafers, the ICs, so in that case also we can use the plasma. Okay, and after that it can be used for the cleaning of the IC. Okay, if we want to have the dry cleaning of the chip, I will be using the plasma. It can be easily used for the cleaning purposes. Okay, so now coming to the plasma, you must be very curious as of now, what is plasma? A plasma is an ionized gas which contains equal number of positive and the negative charges. And some of you must be getting confused that if I have equal number of positive and negative charges, they must be combining with each other. Okay, so if I have here a proton and here I have an electron, they can combine, they have the attractive energy, and if they have the attractive energy, they can combine. There will be recombination that is happening. Okay, so this is not what is happening inside the plasma. To make the plasma, we should have the positive and the negative charges intact. They should not combine. Okay, so if I go towards the more precise definition, a plasma is a quasi-neutral gas of charged and the neutral particles which exhibits collective behavior. Okay, so in addition to these positive and negative charges, there will be some neutral charges also, because the continuous recombination and the ionization is happening inside the plasma. So we are having both of the things. We have the charged particles, then we have the neutral particles. So both of them combined are forming the plasma. So I hope now you don't have any confusion about the definition of the plasma. Okay, as of now you should have understood what is plasma. So it's a gas which contains equal positive and the negative charges as well as some neutral charges as well. Okay, so the neutral particles are there which are formed after the recombination of positive and negative charges, and after the ionization of neutral atoms, then we are getting the positive and the negative charges. So for example, we have sun. In the sun we have the helium ion. So here also these helium and hydrogen are existing in the form of plasma, and this is how the sun is generating huge amount of energies. Then we have various flames, then we have neon light. All of them are using plasma. Now coming to the components, as of now you must have understood the various components. We are having the neutral atoms, or we are having the neutral molecules. Then we have the negative charges, that is the electrons, and the positive charges, that is ions. Okay, I was giving you the example of electron and the proton, but instead of only proton we have the positively charged ions. Okay, so when we have, like for example, we have CO2. So from the CO2 I will be having CO2 positive ion and one electron. So when these are there, then I will be forming the plasma. Okay, so if I want to talk about the quasi-neutral atoms, okay, so it will be equal to the number of the electrons. If I talk about the ionization rate will be equal to the number of electrons divided by the number of electrons plus the neutral atoms or molecules number. Okay, so quasi-neutral is equal to directly number of electrons. Ionization rate is represented by psi, number of electrons divided by number of electrons plus number of neutral atoms or molecules. Now coming to the ionization rate. Ionization rate is a very important parameter which determines the composition of the plasma. It determines how much electrons are there in the plasma. Okay, so if I have more of ionization, the more will be the positive ions, the more will be the electrons. In most of the plasma processing chambers, the ionization rate is even lesser than 0.001%. Now if I talk about the sun's ionization rate is around 100%. So you can see how much less ionization that we are using in the IC processing. So if I talk about high density plasma, we are going to talk about the high density plasma also in detail when we are going to talk about the etching. So the ionization rate of high density plasma source is also much higher. It is around 1%. Okay, so now coming to the neutral gas density. So what is a neutral gas? The neutral gas will not be containing any electrons or any ions. So here we will be having just the neutral atoms or the neutral molecules. So if I talk about the ideal gas, so in the ideal gas we have 1 mole. Okay, so 1 mole will be equal to 22.4 liter. So forgive me for the spelling of the liter, so you can correct it, which will be equal to 2.24 into 10 raised to power 4 centimeter cube. Okay, and if I talk about the molecules, so 1 mole will be equal to 6.62 into 10 raised to power 23 molecules. We all know this basic definition. Now if I talk about the pressure, if I have 1 atmosphere pressure, so the gas density will be going around 2.96 into 10 raised to power 19 per centimeter cube. Okay, at the 1 torr pressure, the gas density is around 3.89 into 10 raised to power 16 per centimeter cube. At 1 millitorr, the gas density is 3.89 into 10 raised to power 13 per centimeter cube. So you can see, if I am reducing the pressure, then the gas density is reducing. So now coming to the RF plasma. RF plasma is having the very low ionization rate. Okay, so the ionization rate tells me that how much electrons are there, how much electron energy is there. In the RF plasma, there are less number of electrons. So you can see the system by which we are forming the plasma. This is the parallel plate plasma system, and here we are having the electrodes, the positively charged electrode and the negatively charged electrode, and here you can see I am giving the RF power. So you can see, if I am giving the alternative current, so the positive and the negative charges electrode will be changing. So they will keep on changing according to the polarity of the power that we are giving. Now here in between we have dark space, which is called the sheath layer. This sheath layer is a very important concept, which is forming the ion bombardment energy. It is very essential when we understand the ion bombardment. So remember what is the sheath layer. When I am going to talk about the ion bombardment, I am discussing it again. So if you remember, then it will be very beneficial for both of us. Okay, so here you can see, if I am having the RF power here, the plasma is generated in between this chamber. Okay, so here we will be having a vacuum pump. Why we are having the vacuum pump? So that no new particles are coming inside and it will be actually contaminating the plasma. Okay, so if I have any particle or any charges or any neutral particle which is coming to the plasma, it can dissociate and degenerate the plasma that we don't want. Okay, so now coming to the generation of the plasma. How we generate? As I have already shown you the system or the equipment, so there you must have seen there is an external power source, which is the radio frequency power source, which is most commonly used power source to generate the plasma. Vacuum system is also required to generate a stable RF plasma, and why I have already told you. Okay, so if I don't have vacuum, then the stability of the plasma will not be there. Now coming to the ionization, what happens? We have some electrons which are generated due to the polarity of the RF power that we are giving. So these electrons will be colliding with the neutral atoms or the molecules. Like for example, we have the CO2. Okay, so in the CO2 molecules, the electrons will be colliding with the CO2 molecules, and then it can be knocking out one of the orbital electron from the CO2. So you can see here, if I have an electron which is colliding with any atom, so what happens? This atom will be forming an atom positive ion and one electron will be released. So here we will be having two electrons. So ionization collisions generate electrons plus ions. So you can see, from one electrons, here we have two electrons plus one ion. So now these two electrons will be generating ion as well as electron, and this process will keep on repeating and it sustains the plasma. The production of electron only sustains the formation of the plasma. So you can see here we have this free electron when it is colliding with the atom. So you can see here we are generating the free electrons. Okay, so here this is the nucleus and this is the only one electron that is left in the atom. So this is called the positively charged atom, and here we have the 2 electrons. So I hope now you understood this process well. So you can see the excitation relaxation. What happens? So if I have a positively charged ion and electron, they can recombine also, okay, as there is a possibility for the recombination, because ions, that is positively charged, and electrons are having attractive energy towards both of them. Okay, so due to which recombination will also be happening. Okay, so now here if I have the electron which is colliding with the atom, so there is one more possibility that there will be no recombination, there will be no ionization. The third possibility is excitation and the relaxation. What is excitation? Excitation means that it is not losing the electron is going to the high energy state only. So when the electron is going to the high energy state, it is not lost from the atom, it might be coming back to the original energy state. This process is called relaxation. The process of electron jumping to the higher energy state is called the excitation. So both of them are happening when the electron is colliding with the atom. So not only ionization and recombination are happening, the excitation and relaxation are also happening. So when the excitation is happening, the atom is moving, or the electron in the atom is moving to the higher energy state. Now this electron might come back to the lower energy state, but when it comes back to the lower energy state, there will be some energy released in the form of photons. So now these photons are the light energy that will be making the plasma to glow. So this is the reason why sometimes the plasma appears to be glowing. Okay, so we have different atoms or molecules which have different frequency, therefore different gases have different glow colors, and this is how we can differentiate between different gases as well. If I have CO2 gas, it will be glowing in a different color. If I have O2 gas, it will be glowing in a different color. The change of the glow color is used for etching and for chamber cleaning process and point calculation. Okay, so now if I have the glow for a one charge and the glow different for another charge, okay, so if I want to find out the etching process, that if the one substrate is etched out completely and now we are etching the below layer, okay, so how I can find out? If I am etching the upper layer, then the glow will be different. If I move to the below layer, then the glow will be different, and this is how I can find out the end point. Okay, so this is a very important concept for the etching purposes, and I will be discussing it again when I will be discussing about the etching. So now coming to the excitation collision. Okay, so you can see this is our impact electron. Okay, this is our nucleus and this is our grounded electron present in the main energy level. Okay, the ground energy level. Okay, so now here this impact electron will be colliding with the grounded electron, and now what happens? This grounded electron will be going to the higher energy state and the impacted electron will be moving out. So this is the excitation. Now coming to the relaxation, this excited electron which is going to the excited energy level will be coming back to the ground level, and in this process some energy is released in the terms of photons, which is calculated as h of omega, where h is the Planck's constant, omega is the frequency of the light that is released. Okay, so because all of the matters will be having different excitation level, and if I have different excitation level, h is a constant, the omega will be different. So because the omega is different, we will be having different glow for different metals, and this is the reason we are having the different color of the different plasma when we have different materials. So this is the ground state, this is the excited state, and this is the electron. When it comes down, the energy is released, which is h of omega. Now coming to the dissociation. In the dissociation process, what can happen? We have the electron which is fired on the molecule. So now what can happen, this molecule can break down, okay, because we are supplying the electron energy to it. Okay, so for example, here you can see we have the electron and this is the molecule. The electron is coming and hitting this molecule and we are getting the dissociated molecule. For example, let's suppose we have carbon monoxide and electron is hitting the carbon monoxide. So what can happen, it can generate the carbon atom and the oxygen atom. This process is called the dissociation, and the electron is left out as it is, which is used for the dissociation of the further molecule. So electron collide with the molecule, it can break the chemical bond and can generate the free radicals. Now these free radicals have at least one unpaired electrons and they are chemically very reactive, because when they were making the bond, they were having the neutral charge. Okay, now when the bond is break, there will be some unpaired electron that is left out, and this is the reason they are very reactive. They can react with any material or any atom or molecule that is nearby to it. Okay, so it will be increasing the chemical reaction rate, and this is the process which is very important in the etching as well as the chemical vapor deposition. So this is the picture which shows the dissociation. The electron is hitting the molecule and we are forming the free radicals and the electrons back. Now coming to the plasma etch. Okay, so what happens when we are using the plasma for the etching purposes? I have already told you we are using mostly the fluorine for the etching purposes. So CF4 is the mostly used material or the molecule in the plasma to generate the fluorine free radical, which is mostly used for the oxide etching purposes. So whenever we have any oxide, silicon dioxide or any other oxide, we have to etch it using the fluorine. So how we are generating fluorine? Fluorine is generated using the dissociation of CF4 molecule with the help of electrons. Okay, so it is used in the plasma to generate the fluorine. This fluorine is generated. Now here we are left out with CF3 and the fluorine and the electron. This fluorine will be reacting with the SiO2 and it is forming SiF4, which is a gaseous compound, and this gaseous molecule will be evaporating, and this is how we are etching out the silicon dioxide layer. Plus here we have two oxygen radicals that are formed. So now it will be enhancing the etch chemistry. Okay, so whenever we have plasma, the etching will be done very easily. Okay, so I hope now you understood the use of plasma. Now coming to the plasma enhanced the chemical vapor deposition, how it is used in the chemical vapor deposition. So if I have the PECVD, it is used with the SiH4 as well as the NO2. NO2, I hope you remember, we have already studied about it in the 12th or the 11th class, and we were used to know it as the laughing gas. NO2 is the laughing gas. So the electron is hitting the SiH4 and it is forming SiH2 plus 2H plus electron. So it is dissociation that is happening here, and again the dissociation will be happening for the N2O, and here we will be forming N2 plus O plus electron. So here we will be having SiH2. If I want to deposit SiO2 layer, so what I can do, I can use the SiH2 formed here and I can use this oxygen radical that is formed here. So these both of them are highly reactive, that I have already told you. So these two can combine and they can form SiO2 plus H2O is formed, which is in liquid phase and can be removed easily. So this process is called the chemical vapor deposition, and here we are using the plasma enhanced chemical reactions. So the chemical reaction might take place naturally as well, but we are enhancing the rate of reaction with the help of plasma. So PECVD can achieve high deposition rate at the relatively lower temperature using plasma. So now a question can arise that why are the dissociation not important in the aluminium and the copper PVD process? So when we are having the physical vapor deposition of aluminium and the copper, So we are using only argon which is a noble gas which exists in the form of atoms, and here if I have argons we don't have any molecules. Dissociation will happen only when we have molecules. So there is no dissociation process that is happening because we are using, in the sputtering process we are using the argon plasma. Okay, so the next question is there any dissociation collision in the physical vapor deposition process? Yes, obviously there will be a dissociation collision in the TIN deposition process. Both argon as N2 are used. Okay, so argon cannot dissociate, but N2 is dissociated into the free radicals of nitrogen, which reacts with the titanium and then it generates the titanium nitride, and on the surface we are having the titanium nitride. Then we have the argon ion. The argon ion will be sputtering the titanium nitride molecules from the surface, and then they are deposited on the wafer surface, and this is how we are depositing the titanium nitride with the help of physical vapor deposition. Now you can see the silane dissociation. With the help of collision we are having the electron colliding with the SiH4. The byproducts can be SiH2 plus H2 plus electron, SiH3 plus H plus electron, Si plus 2H2 plus electron, SiH plus H2 plus H plus electron, SiH2 plus 2H plus electron, Si plus, this is when we have star, which means we have high energy or excitation level, plus 2H2 plus electron, we have SiH positive plus hydrogen plus 2 electron, then we have SiH3 positive plus hydrogen plus 2 electron, then we have Si positive plus 2H2 plus 2 electron, then we have SiH positive H2 plus H plus 2 electrons. So because of the dissociation of silane, these all byproducts can be formed, and there are various different energies of formation. So if I have 2.2 electron volt energy, the byproduct will be SiH2. Okay, so if I have 4 electron volt energy, the byproduct will be SiH3. 4.2 electron volt, then the byproduct is silicon. So this is how we can use the different energy to form different byproducts that we can use in the different processes. So now coming to the question, which of the collision in the previous table, which is the 7.1 table, is most likely to happen? Okay, so the most likely happening collision is the collision which is happening at the least energy. Okay, so you can see which collision is happening at the least energy, SiH2 plus H2 plus electron. So this is the most likely byproduct that we form when we have the silane dissociation. Now coming to the mean free path. Okay, so the average distance a particle can travel before colliding with another particle is the mean free path. Okay, so if we have various particles, these particles might collide, but before colliding, how much distance one particle can travel is the mean free path, which is equal to 1 upon NO, where N is the density of the particle. Okay, so if I increase the N, if I increase the density, the mean free path will be reducing. Okay, so if I increase the O, which is the collision cross section of the particle, then also the mean free path will be reduced. Okay, so now you can see the mean free path. So when we have the larger particles mean free path will be very less because there will be more chances of the collision. If I have the smaller particles, then we have the lesser chances of the collision. So you can see if I have more density here, in the more density also we have higher chances of collision, which means lesser mean free path. Here we will be having higher mean free path because the density is less. Okay, so effect of pressure, it is inversely proportional to pressure, because if I increase the pressure, there will be high chances of the atoms to be colliding. So if I have the higher pressure, we will be having shorter mean free path. If I have lower pressure, which means I have longer mean free path. Now coming to the question that why one needs vacuum chamber to generate a stable plasma. Okay, so I hope now you understood this question. Now you are in a position to answer this question. If I have the atmospheric pressure now, which is the 760 torr, the mean free path of electron is very short then, because electrons are hard to get enough energy to ionize the gases molecules. If I have extremely strong electric field, that can generate the plasma in the form of lightning instead of steady state glow discharge. Okay, so if I want to have the steady state charges, I must have the vacuum, otherwise there will be some recombination and the dissociation that will be taking place with the help of other molecules that can contaminate the plasma. Now the movement of the charged particles. Electrons is much lighter than the ions, so I can say electrons will be moving faster than the ions. Ions are very bulky as compared to the electrons. So the mass of electron is very much less than the mass of ion. So mass of electron to the mass of hydrogen ion ratio is around, if I am taking only hydrogen ion, you can understand we can have various other big ions as well, like the CO2 positive ions also. Okay, so now the mass of electron to the mass of hydrogen ratio is around 1:1836. You can see if I am taking the lightest atom also, then also this ratio is very big. Okay, so now the electronic force on the electron and ions are same because the charges are same. Here in the electron we have the negative charge, and on the ion we have the positive charge. The same negative and the same positive charge is there. Okay, but the masses are different, and because the force is equal to Q into E, the force will be same, but the acceleration will be different because acceleration is equal to force into mass. Okay, force upon mass. Okay, so you can see if I have higher mass, then we will be having the lesser acceleration, which means ions will be having very less acceleration than the electrons. So now coming to the movement of the charged particles, the RF electric field varies very quickly. Okay, we have the alternating electric field. Now electrons are accelerated very quickly while ions are very slow. Electrons very fastly move towards the positively charged electrode, and as soon as the polarity is reversed, they are again turned back and they move towards the next positively charged electrode. But ions they are intact at the center level only. Okay, because they are positively charged and they are bulky. Ions have more collision due to their larger cross section, and because they are bulky, they are big, they will be having more collisions, and that is further slowing them down, so that ions will not be appearing moving to me. Electrons move much faster than the ions in the plasma. Now coming to the thermal velocity. Electron thermal velocity will be equal to kTe upon the mass of electron under root. Okay, so now if I talk about the RF plasma, the temperature of excitation is about 2 electron volt. The VE is around 5.93 into 10 raised to power 7 centimeter per second, which is around 1.33 into 10 raised to power 7 meters per hour. Okay, so now coming to the magnetic force and gyro motion. Magnetic force in the charged particle will be represented as Q into V into B. So BQV is the force that we are experiencing due to the magnetic field present surrounding the charge. Okay, so due to the magnetic field, the charge can have the rotational motion, and due to the rotational motion we will be having different direction of the different masses of the charge. Magnetic force is always perpendicular to the particle velocity, and the charged particle will be having spiral motion around the magnetic field line, which is called the gyro motion. Okay, so I hope now you understood, whenever we have magnetic field, it is providing some circular motion to the charge, and it will be like a spiral type of motion, which is called the gyro motion. You can see the gyro motion with the help of this diagram. So here you can see this is the perpendicular direction which represents the magnetic field line, and this is the trajectory of the charged ions. Okay, now coming to the gyro frequency. The gyro frequency is the frequency that represents the motion of the charged particles inside the magnetic field. So gyro frequency is represented by BQ upon M. Okay, so if I have higher mass is very high, then the gyro frequency will be less. If I have the very small mass, which means the gyro frequency will be very high, it will be rotating in a very fast manner. Okay, now coming to the gyro radius. Gyro radius, the radius of the spiral motion that the charge is following. So now the gyro radius of the charged particle in the magnetic field theta can be expressed as the v perpendicular upon the frequency. Okay, so it is a very simple formula. Now you can see the Boltzmann distribution. So you can see in the 2 to 3 electron volt energy we are having the highest force. Okay, so you can see at this very high energy we will be having the enough energy for the ionization, and at this place the ionization will be happening. So these are the references. I hope you understood each and everything that I have discussed in this video. So this was a very important video, and if you have any kind of doubt you can reach out to these books, or you can put your doubt in the comment. I will be trying to resolve your doubt as soon as possible. I hope you like this video. If you like it, please push the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also do share it with your friends. Thank you so much.